Hi everyone, it's Marcia Martin, the Heart Healer, here with you to celebrate love. We are one day ahead of Valentine's Day, so if you don't have a Valentine, I will be yours this year because I want everyone to know how incredibly important you are, how much you are loved, and how worthy you are of that love. But today I really want to take a look at love and what it is, because certainly when I began on this spiritual journey, love was something very weak, something that I couldn't help myself from expressing, but something that always seemed to cause me pain for some reason. It was not even romantic love. It always seemed to be that I would be very wanting to be loving and kind, and there would be not the same response on the other side. So I had always been fascinated about, why there was so much talk about love when it was obviously such a weak and ineffectual mechanism. And so as my journey progressed and I really began to understand what's meant by love, I've been wanting to share as much as I can of that with others. So we talk about love regularly, and today we're going to answer the question, what is love? So, as always, we have our guides here that will explain to us from that higher perspective. And remember, we never do anything from a place of, I'm not enough, so I have to go running over here to get an answer. We're not searching outside of ourselves for answers or information. We are using their ability to see the bigger picture so that we can avoid the trees in the forest, so that we can stay on the path that is the most clear. But we can't connect with them by trying to go outside of ourselves. We can only connect fully with them when we go deeply into our heart center, where that connection is always alive and flourishing, whether you are on a committed spiritual journey or you could care less. So that's the wonderful news. Doesn't matter whether you just started yesterday on your spiritual journey or you never want to be on a spiritual journey. That connection will stay with you throughout this entire physical journey and every physical journey you've ever been on. That's your connection to God, to Source, to the universe, whatever you want to call it. And it is absolutely essential for life and cannot be taken from you until you decide to exit the physical life and the physical body. So never feel that other people started before you, no more appear to be wiser. Okay, they may have more information. They may have been on the path for a longer period of time. They may be more practiced at using the communication with the energetic realm. But you have the same connection. You just have to put the work in, the time in, and develop that connection. But let's look at what love is, and so you can really get a firm path underneath your feet as you move forward. It will help you gain such strength if you're not looking for love to be something that it is not. So they begin. Dear ones, as so many of you around the world prepare for the holiday that celebrates love, we feel it important to define love. It appears that you're laboring under an illusion and its byproduct. So rather than profiting from love, you're being hurt and weakened by associating with it. Love, as it is meant to be, is not romantic. Physical, feel-good feelings, butterflies and stars do not create love. Love is unconditional acceptance, no matter what the outward circumstances may suggest. So, is there physical romantic love? Yes, but it is not the product that's being discussed in any of the spiritual texts, the religious text. Any time you hear a person who is sharing love with you, a wise person, a yogi, a very advanced spiritual teacher, they are not talking about find a partner and experience romantic love. You have a life partner and a partner for eternity, and that partner is God. You have that connection. You are never by yourself trying to figure this all out. And they continue. Jesus tells you that each one of you should love your brother as you love yourself. This statement has caused confusion among you. Some of you believe self-love is inherently selfish, so you should love others through possession or ownership. We've all met those people. They may be able to step outside of their selfishness for a brief period of time, particularly when the loving relationship is new, and they want to give you everything. But it can be very uncomfortable if love is not balanced. Well, some believe that self-love is sacrificial. So you should love others by giving completely of yourself and holding nothing back. And we've all met people who do that. Oh, let me do more for you and more for you and more for you, when it's clear that the other person is being hurt by the amount of attention or giving that they're doing. That makes you uncomfortable too. Always balance. Although these self-love concepts vary widely, they are really two different ends of the same spectrum, and neither of them is an expression of true self-love. It's this poor copy of the real thing we wish to address today so you can move forward in a state of fullness and completion instead of from a place of half empty, trying to find a way to become full. Now, I have spoken to so many people throughout the years, and love is a big thing that comes up, especially relationships. And often people will say to me, well, I'm looking for someone to fill me or to complete me. And we're going to discuss that in just a few minutes. But that is not what an ideal relationship is supposed to do. So if you have found yourself saying that, I want you to take a moment, take a deep breath, and recognize you are more than enough. So when you think of loving partnerships, we want you to think in terms of someone who complements you, someone who has what you don't, strengths for your weaknesses, and vice versa. But do not look to that person as your source of completion. This is really so important. No one can complete you. You are already everything you need to be as you are right now for this present moment. You may not be enough for the next moment, at which point you will become more, and then you will be everything you need to be for the next moment, because each one of you is perfect and on a journey of completion of self. You cannot ask another person to complete who you are. You yourself are perfect on your own journey of completion to God. You want to be as close to God as possible. That's what this whole journey is about. God, who is everything and everywhere, God, who is 100% complete, is who we are trying to become through these physical journeys. Now, I don't think any of us are ever going to get it done, but that's our goal, that desire to expand. But another person can't bring their energy and make you complete somehow. You have everything you need within yourself. You may learn from each other, but there are no lesser beings. You do not complete one another. You enhance, you complement, you honor, you guide, you assist, but each one of you is perfect as you are and capable of attaining completion with God, with or without a romantic partner. So if you decide, gee, I really don't want the work of a romantic partner in my life, you will be fine. If you decide, gee, I'd really like a romantic partner in my life, you will also be fine. Remember, this is a planet of free will. We get to choose that which feels best to us. We come here with the intention of completing challenges, of learning, of growing, of stretching ourselves. Sometimes we want to do that with other people doing it with us. We want to share that journey. Other times we want a very solitary existence so that we can really focus on our own inner life, or just because we do. Anything is okay, as long as it feels good to you. Please don't make a choice based on someone else's desire or need. They will be fine whether you choose to imitate them or not, but you're the one that you always have to be concerned with. And the reason this is true is not because we're all supposed to be selfish in the way that we understand selfish, but so that we can become selfless. If we are so filled to overflowing, if we have met every single one of our desires, do you think that that loving energy is just going to hang around you? No. You become a fountain of love that pours forth to everyone. So in the beginning, the journey to self-love appears to be selfish. I advise you to meet all of your needs clearly and with as much passion as you can. Hold nothing back from yourself, so that when you get to that place of fullness, the love that's pouring forth from you will be a healing balm for everyone you encounter. You are just that important. So now returning to the two opposite ends of your self-love scale. The one who believes self-love is selfish or a more for me kind of person is not participating in self-love. They're engaging in self-lack. When your view is more for me and less for you, which is the world's view of selfish, you must believe there's only so much available. You believe in lack, that the supply can run out or your portion can be taken from you. Therefore, you love yourself by making sure you always have extra, even if it means leaving less for others. Now, this is not the kind of self-love that I just spoke to you about, where you are actively trying to fill up understanding that when you come from your place of fullness, you are a fountain to all others. This is I fear, not I love. If you were to follow Jesus' teachings to love others as you love yourself, you would try to do so by allowing the object of your love to receive more than you received. Well, that's certainly very nice. You'd be placing yourself second and acting nobly by allowing another to go before you or receive more than you. However, no matter how loving this sounds, it's a trick of the ego and carries a tail. Here's how you know if ego has snuck into your life. It will carry a tail and you'll be able to feel that. Ego is heavy. Ego comes with restrictions and requirements and do this and do that. And ego doesn't feel free. Because you believe in lack and you've agreed to accept less, you're guaranteed that your act of love will bring you pain at some point in the future. Love is now painful, and the only way to stop that pain is to be less loving, less willing to share your piece of the pie. You've agreed that love is costly and unpleasant. Now, we've all been around people who have had an uncomfortable breakup, and this is kind of where they're at. Wow, that person, I was so good to them. I gave them everything. Well, we don't know what the other person's side of the story was, but I can tell you just from those words, that was ego love. I'm going to buy your love. That was not unconditional, and it didn't come from a place of, I love myself so much that I'm willing to attract someone who is my complement. That sounds like it was coming from the place of, I am afraid that I'm not good enough, so I have to trick someone into loving me by trying to buy them. So, on the other hand, there's the person who believes love should be sacrificial. In the beginning of a romantic liaison, you may be delighted to offer yourself as the personal servant to the other person. You may view yourself as the long-suffering martyr who is known for their ability to put the needs of others before their own. Now, certainly when I was thinking about love, I used to view it in terms of the martyr. Well, you weren't going to get much in return, but that was okay because you were this wonderful person that had been the loving giver. This person may receive accolades for their willingness to be of service and to go the extra mile. The admiration they receive from others will fuel their ability to stay in service. But at some point, this false ego contribution will begin to breed resentment. It's impossible to keep doing this from your ego perspective. This giving, but I don't need anything, and not get completely out of balance and into resentment. The one who believes self-love is sacrifice also believes in lack. And since there isn't enough, or they're the only one who will do for others, resentment is allowed to fester under the guise of sacrifice. So when we hear, gosh, these different viewpoints of love are based in a lack-based mentality, and lack is fear, we know right there they are not participating in unconditional love, because love and fear cannot coexist. They are opposite emotions. If unconditional love is truly present, fear will not be able to find a place to begin sowing its seed. There will be no fertile ground. If fear is in control, unconditional love will be choked out like the weeds will do in your garden if they're allowed to go on unchecked. It is what you have chosen to pay attention to that decides what is going to appear in your life. And what your belief system is. If your belief system is based on lack, lack will be part of your life until you decide to change your belief system. Your focus, your attention, the energy that you're willing to put forth into the study and caretaking of lack. Just withdraw your attention. Stop feeding it information. Stop making it the master of your life. Lack is only a fear-based product. It doesn't have a life of its own. It cannot surprise you or catch you off guard. You've created it. If you put unconditional love in your life in its place, I guarantee you, lack will have no choice but to disappear. Now, what about fear? I have an incredible class, How to Defeat the Demon of Fear. I taught it earlier. You can get it on replay. Wonderful, fabulous exercises that you can use that will help you get a handle on fear if it's running and ruining your life. And only you know. You've got to be honest with yourself. But if you are ready to stop being afraid, I was so ready to stop being afraid when I started this journey, but I didn't have these tools. So it took me years and years, 20 years, 30 years, before I could stop being afraid. Because I didn't have the tools that I have created with the help of my guides and placed into that class. So if you are laboring under the belief that fear is stronger than you are, take this class, How to Defeat the Demon of Fear. So, as soon as love is allowed to be defined by emotion, a feeling, or an action, it becomes something that can be changed and feared. Then fear, again, can step in. What if they don't love me in return? What if I decide that I don't love them? What if? It can be offered on a conditional basis, given if certain conditions are met, taken away if said conditions are not met, or if the individual giving love is no longer interested. Well, that sounds like shaky ground to me, something I need to be afraid of. When love is given on a lack basis in which something must be denied in order for the love to flourish, then the ego has become involved and the product created is now an illusion and therefore untrustworthy. Love given on a lack basis, which is love defined by emotion, feeling, or action. Love that might be here today and gone tomorrow. That is ego love. And it is an illusion. And that's why it's untrustworthy. It's not untrustworthy because it's unconditional love that comes from God. It's untrustworthy because it's not a real product. This then leads us back to the major problem with romantic love. Those of you who are searching for romantic love are often disappointed by what transpires, and then you assign love the role of being untrustworthy, undependable, and simply without power. This is why we want you to stop running after romantic love and start doing the work of self-love. Now, let's just take a moment. Does romantic love ever turn out to be valuable? Absolutely. When you have two self-loving people choosing to join that self-love in an even more beautiful product that was created by the two of you. Not when you have two empty people trying to make the other person responsible for your happiness. Then that product that you create, the two of you create, is not more beautiful. It's weaker, it's dark, and it has the ability to cause a lot of harm. Self-love should be unconditional self-love. Self-love should be unconditional. It should be as God loves, balanced and never-ending. Self-love should have nothing to do with outward circumstances and should be capable of maintaining the same level of acceptance no matter what events are transpiring. So, if you have a bad day and you're in a romantic relationship with someone who is looking to you to be their anchor, let's say, or their reason that they smile, they're putting all of that weight on you, you may be worried about talking with that romantic partner or going home to that person if you live together, because you'll feel like they're not going to be supportive of you and your needs, and you're not sure how you want to interact with that or whether you want to interact with that person, because they're not your balance, they're not your encourager, they're not your support, they're a drain. Possibly because you began the relationship when you were not self-loving and you were looking to them to be everything you were not. And I'm asking you instead to become everything and then look for someone who is a complement, who can encourage you to be even more. In other words, self-love should be love as God loves, equally and unceasing. Therefore, we advise that you seek looking outward for the perfect partner and begin looking inward at the perfection that you already are. When you begin acknowledging all that you are, when you begin strengthening your relationship with the divine, and when you begin to approach life from the balanced perspective of fullness, then you'll find it easy to be honestly and completely self-loving. So what is self-love? Balanced, full. It is not empty, searching outside yourself for someone or something so that you can feel good about yourself. The pretense and false modesty will drop away as you take your rightful place in the heart of God. Once you realize you are loved fully and completely, that you can do nothing to earn or repel that love, you will begin to relax. Let's take a moment and remember the story in the Bible of the prodigal son. One son stayed behind and did everything they were supposed to do. They were the perfect son in every way. They followed in their father's footsteps. They never put a foot wrong. They were there. Were dependable. And the other son went and took their inheritance and blew it on wine and women and stuff, and found themselves suddenly in the worst place, doing the worst job and feeling sorry for themselves. And then they decided, oh my gosh, I think I want to go home. But there was that question in their minds, well, will I still be welcomed? And so many of us begin our spiritual journey wondering, will the divine welcome me back when I have traveled so far from the ideal? I wanted so much to be a good person, but perhaps I got into drugs or alcohol or stealing or hurting other people. What if I killed other people? I wandered so far away from that ideal will I be able to return? And just as the prodigal son was welcomed with open arms, you will be welcomed. None are turned away. You were never not loved. Your actions, your thoughts, your feelings have nothing to do with the energy of unconditional love that is the divine, that is pouring forth upon everyone, and is unceasing and non-judgmental in its acceptance. So the prodigal son was welcomed home with a wonderful feast. And you too, when you choose to turn your vision away from what's going on in your physical world, whether it be everything wonderful or everything horrible, but when you stop saying, my life is dependent on the physical, and you begin searching inward and saying, my life will become fabulous when I develop the inward connection with God that I need, that's when you will really open up. That's when your life will be able to just take off. So, be the prodigal son. If you have not started back on that spiritual path, or if you're afraid that you will not be welcomed because of other previous thoughts or feelings or actions, let that go. That's a product of the ego that is trying to keep you separate. God says, I never stopped loving you and I never will, because I know who you are inside, your authentic self. And this little blip on the radar screen of your existence, which says, oh, you made some bad choices, well, that's why you're here. That's why you started this physical journey. You said, I want to know what it's like to have choices. I want to know what it's like to have challenges. I want to know what it's like to mess up. And God said, go ahead. You're perfectly safe. I will love you no matter what. And the information that you gain by enduring those challenges will help everyone evolve. It will help the world so much when you grow in wisdom. So we are encouraged to create these sometimes not very pleasant lifetimes. Not encouraged to create unpleasant ones. That didn't come out right. We're encouraged to create lifetimes of challenge, knowing that nothing bad can happen to us, except that we get challenged. And that's a good thing because we'll grow. But you can never, that authentic self that is you can never be hurt or harmed, so you're perfectly safe in exploring. You're even safe to explore the deepest, darkest part of life. It won't feel good, but you're safe to explore it. You're safe in the assurance of unconditional love. And when you're safe in that assurance, you're going to be bold in exploring new ways of being. Safe from competing for affection. You'll be able to share your love with others. When you know that it doesn't matter what you do, you can be so bold and so brave in how you express love. Because you're already receiving unending love, it will become the gift you give to others. Safe from the fear there won't be enough, you'll be able to give generously. And safe from the lie that God's love must be earned, you'll be able to freely give from your abundant overflow without feeling that there will be none left for you. This is the perfect way that God loves us. We are safe from every hurt or harm that could come against us. We are not immune to challenges because we want the challenges, but nothing can cause us permanent damage. The physical entity that you're occupying at this time, this physical set of clothing, can get sick, it can die, it can grow old if you want it to. It can experience all of those things. It can even experience unpleasant things. But the authentic self does not get hurt or harmed in any way. It simply grows from your new knowledge. So that's why you are encouraged by the divine to explore. First of all, you're never alone. They are always with you. They are always guiding you. And secondly, the only thing that can really happen is that you expand and explore. The other things are just illusionary products that are part of being in a physical body, but they will not come with you when you return to the spiritual realm. So you're always safe to explore. So what is love? Love is unconditional. It's never ending. It cannot be bought or sold. It cannot be earned or taken away, and it's given freely to everyone, everywhere, without exception. God's love is perfect, and it sees you as the same. Go now, knowing that you are perfect, and from that state, give your love without condition to yourself and to all others in an unending stream that will never wither or die. What is love? Love is God. And you are God. You have God within you, so you too are love. So let's just take a look now at what God has shared with us, what the universe, source, the divine, whatever you want to call the being that is in everything and everywhere, what have they shared with us? What strength have you gained now so that you can move forward and, if you choose, attract a romantic partnership that will feel good to you? And if you choose not to, you will know that you are not lacking in any way. You are not incomplete. You are not half of a whole. You are already whole. If you decide you want a romantic partnership, you would be two whole beings. If you're really wrapped in unconditional love, then you would come as two whole beings, and the product of your love would create another new energy that had a separate life of its own, that was something beyond what each one of you was. That would be another whole being with which you would bless the world. But you don't need to feel weak or insignificant if you have decided that you don't want a romantic partner, or if you don't have a romantic partner at this time, because you, just as you are already perfect. Nobody can change that. You are and always will be perfect. So let's take a look at this whole concept and start to, if you have a question, and then I'm going to share with you a couple of different scenarios that people shared with me through the years of doing this work to show you what works in a romantic relationship and what it doesn't. And it's okay, it's not a failing to say, you know what, this romantic relationship is no longer working for me for whatever reason. You may have grown and your partner may have chosen not to grow. That's okay. Both parties have free will. It's not that one of you is good and the other is bad. You may no longer be able to Be the complement to one another that you used to be, if you ever were. Sometimes when we begin romantic relationships and we're not feeling really great about ourselves, we may not attract a person who really compliments us. We may instead attract a person who throws out false positives. And we'll recognize that when we get into the place where we are really loving ourselves. Doesn't mean, again, there was anything wrong with that person, just not the right person for you at this time. Lovingly let them go. Be here for yourself first. Fill up all those empty spaces, and then be that fountain of love that just pours forth on everyone, everywhere. Unconditional love is the love of God, and it is not dependent on physical love or feel-good interactions. Doesn't mean that we're never supposed to like feeling good. We are. That's our goal. That's when we know we are connected to the divine. And when we are connecting with the divine in other people, we feel good. But we don't need other people to feel good. That's just giving away our own personal power. Unconditional love cannot be earned or lost, bought or sold. So you can't get good enough to be loved or bad enough not to be loved. There are some religions, and I am not trying to deter you from having a religious viewpoint. I want you to hold on to anything that's working for you. However, some religions have decided that they are going to almost tell you that you can bribe God. I grew up in a church that said, well, your good works will make God love you. Or your offering, your money will make God love you. It's wonderful to do good things for other people. Yes, we must offer a thank you through our money if we are being taught by a minister, a religious person. If that person has helped you and guided you, well, help them by contributing to their ministry so they can continue to guide you. But when you say, I have to, or God won't love me, you're out of order. God is never saying, you must do this in order to be worthy to me. God is always saying, you are already worthy, but I want you to become even fuller. That's all God wants for you, for things to become even better. So we're instructed by Jesus to love one another as we love ourselves. So that means it's neither possessive or sacrificial. No one has to do what you say because you say you love them. We've all probably been around people. You have to do this, or if you love me, you'll prove it. They don't really love you. That's not a loving situation. Or you don't have to. Love should not be manipulative, and you don't have to sacrifice in order to earn someone's love. That's sort of the same thing when they say, well, if you really loved me, you would do this for me. That's the possessive one getting tired of being the giver, going to the sacrificial one saying, now you need to sacrifice for me. I'm tired of this game. Well, sacrificial one we know is going to be resentful pretty soon, and that becomes a heck of a messed up relationship if you allow that to continue. When that starts happening, you need first to go within. How am I contributing? Oh, I've got a sacrifice program running here. Let me get rid of that and just be perform loving acts when it feels good to me, including for myself. That means that the person that you have been sacrificing for may no longer want to be in a relationship with you. It's okay. That wasn't a real relationship anyway. Let them go. It's okay. Do it because you want to, not because you're feeling unworthy and it's a way to buy their love. And don't demand that people act in a certain way because you're feeling unworthy, and your way of feeling worth is to try to trick or manipulate people into doing things for you. Either way, you're not going to feel better, and that's not a real relationship. All romantic partnerships should be pairings of equals, so that you want people to be your strength, be the strength to your weakness, not the completion. I have had several people say to me, "Oh, I just feel incomplete without a partner." If I was working with them as their heart healer, I jumped all over that. If this was just a conversation at a social gathering, I try to steer the conversation in a different direction because I'm not always sure that I need to impose my views on others. But I have heard that over and over and over again, and I want you to steer away from that kind of thinking. You don't need to be completed by another person. They cannot complete you. They can bring strengths that you may not have. That's lovely. That's complimentary. They are not making you something you could never be. So, let's see what else. You'll remember, we are always looking for balance. So think of it as being in a dance. You're looking for a dance partner that will enhance you, not somebody that will try to take over or be the bully. You're not looking for that other individual. You know, when we're young and we want to dance, your father or your mother might say, "Oh, hop on my toes and I'll take you around." That's fine when you're a child and you want to dance with an older person and they're being loving and kind and guiding you. But that's not a partnership, and you don't expect it to be a partnership. That's your parent or your aunt or your uncle or someone that you admire that is older and maybe look to for wisdom. But you don't want your romantic partner to be in a superior role to you. A fully self-loving individual sees themselves as perfect for where they are in that moment. And you're going to be growing, changing, evolving constantly. But you're going to be perfect every step of the way. Seeing yourself as perfect gives yourself permission to grow. Just try saying this. I know I'm safe and loved, so I can become my best self. The divine loved me so much that I'm free to explore. And even if I make a mistake, I know I will always be loved. I know I'm safe and loved, so I can become my best self. Stay away from that whole selfish or sacrificial paradigm, the selfish one. Oh, in the beginning of the relationship, I'll give you more as a way to kind of bribe you into loving me, which is going to turn around and create resentment once they get tired of that behavior. Or the sacrificial one that says, I know I'm not enough, so I'll do more for you so that you'll love me. And they start heading into resentment when you just become the servant. That is not a real loving relationship. And you don't have to have that kind of relationship. That's not what God wants for you. God wants you to be saying, I am so magnificent because I'm fully aligned with God. I walk in my own power, and I encourage others to walk in theirs so they can recognize their own magnificence. I recognize that I am not perfectly strong in every area, that some people have strengths where I have weaknesses. And I allow those people who have strengths where I have weaknesses to be part of my life as a complementary team so that my life is easier, filled with even more joy, and I can contribute even more. If you're constantly trying to shore up your weaknesses, you cannot be loving the world with your strengths. And having a small business like I do is certainly a way to learn where your weaknesses are. You learn, hey, I'm not really good at this particular activity. Can I do it? Yeah, not very well. And probably it will take me triple the time that it would take somebody who really understands this. And that's probably not a good use of my time. I need to pay someone for their expertise. That's the way you should be viewing romantic partnerships. I'm really good at name your strengths. I'd like to attract someone who name your weaknesses, who is strong in these areas so that it will make my life feel even fuller. But please don't say, I'm worthless and nobody would love me, but I'll promise I'll give you everything if you'd be willing to love me. Oh, you deserve more than that. You're magnificent, and I want you to remember that. So star 2, if you are in a relationship right now, or you've left a relationship, or you're not even part of a relationship, and you want to be, but you're a little bit confused about whether this relationship is going in the direction that you want it to go. Star 2, let me check to see if any question has come in. Oh, hang on. We do have a new question. So, oh, goodness, there's somebody saying there's no sound. But it seems to be working on my side, so I am so sorry. But we seem to be okay on this side, so I don't know how to fix that. All I can say to you is from Calgary. You're probably not going to be able to hear this, but you might have to go out and come back in. And this will be up on YouTube for you to hear it in case you are not able to fix your sound problem. Okay, so star 2, if you're having a problem that in your relationship and you want just an outside look to make sure this is a relationship worth pursuing. Alrighty, so remember, love defined by emotion can be changed on a whim. Something can be taken away or withheld. Ego has become involved, and that is always true of romantic relationships. So we need to know what can and cannot happen, because it's no good for us to keep sticking our head in the sand and say, well, if I just don't look, my ego will go away. No, you need to work through it to climb the spiritual ladder. That anything that is not unconditionally loving is not of God, and it is a product of the ego. But there's a reason why the ego is allowed to be in our lives. It's because it's one of our greatest teachers. And we don't want to completely get rid of ego, but we want to know what it's capable of doing so that we can be alert and on top of it when it becomes out of control. So let's take a look at the self-love requirements, and then we're going to take a look at these relationships that people have shared with me, just to look at what relationship was working and what wasn't. So we have some parameters. So what are the requirements of self-love? A continuous level of acceptance, equal and unceasing, focused inward on your strengths, centered around a relationship with the divine, not dependent on accomplishments, recognizing that it just is and it cannot be earned. Your relationship with the divine cannot be earned. It's impossible for you to do something, say something, or be something that will make you more acceptable to God. You already are seen as perfect. So what's the end product for you when you are self-loving instead of searching for the romantic relationship to complete you? No more competing for affection. You already know you're loved. Relief from the fear of not being enough. Free of the lies about how to attract God's love. You already possess it. You don't have to attract it. And the ability to give from your overflow to everyone. And probably my favorite is you get to see yourself as perfect in every stage of growth. Old me used to believe that there was very little that was good about myself. And I now can go back and look at that part of me and offer kindness, compassion, and love to that being and tell her, you were perfect even then. That was the mindset that you needed in order to begin this incredible, wonderful journey. I'm so grateful to this journey and to that being that was so lost and confused in the darkness. So I was perfect then, and even though I am completely different now, I am still perfect now. But the thing that stayed the same is that I was loved by the divine throughout. So let's get back to some romantic relationship issues. And let's pretend that this is two people. It doesn't matter whether they're married or not married. So we have one person who's working, and it doesn't matter which side of the partnership this is. One person who's not working and says to the partner, I really need pocket money. I'm not working and I really need pocket money. In the beginning, let's pretend that this person just lost their job and they are trying to go out and get new jobs. So they are going on interviews and they are being very diligent about doing the work that they perceive needs to be done in order to get this job. Should the one that's working help them fund their campaign to get a new job? I don't see why not. This is clearly the person is trying their best to move themselves forward. However, if this continues for a long period of time, probably you need to reevaluate. Maybe they are trying to go for a job that they are not qualified for. They found that they don't like working, that as long as they have a little money in their pocket, they're comfortable to just keep coasting along and letting you do all the work. You need to evaluate situation by situation. It's not always a clear-cut good or bad. So now there's another scenario that was shared with me. Again, we have a non-working spouse and we have another spouse who is having to work probably 2 jobs in order to support the non-working spouse. But there's a caveat. The non-working spouse is working to create a new business, and they are working, they're just not making any money yet. In addition to that, they have a child who is disabled and needs to be monitored 24 hours a day. You might have to make some sacrifices and decide within that relationship who is going to be the 24-hour monitor, or whether you can change that back and forth. Maybe you work in shifts, but you cannot say to the one who you claim is not working or not bringing in income, you're not doing enough, when they are doing all of the care for the individual that needs it. We must look at the contribution each person is making. Contribution is not always limited to financial. And that's where I certainly, in my work, hear a lot of conflict. So, now they're both working, and yet one person has been left with all of the childcare and all of the housework. Again, I would advise that that is not a balanced relationship. Often the women have been given the role of caring for the child and the cooking and the general house cleaning. There's no reason for that. If you are in a male-female relationship, male-male or female-female, divide the work equally. Don't ask one person to do more while you believe that you are the superior party in the relationship and you somehow should receive more than they do. That's not going to bring you a lasting or loving relationship. And it's not a partnership, it's a take advantage ship. So that's not going to be working. Also, I have heard a story of neither are working, and one thinks that they have now the option to blame the other person. If the other person had handled things differently, person A, then person B would be able to get a job. I don't care how long you have been in the relationship, how many relationships you've been in, or how old you are. You are responsible for your own contribution to the world. It is no one's fault if you didn't get the result that you wanted. It's your thoughts and your actions have brought you to this place. If you're allowing others to influence you, that's your choice. Stop allowing it, and you will change the outcome. You may not blame another person for where you are, and grow. You can blame all you want. It's a free will planet, but you will not grow from that experience. Okay? Now, what about if we have a partner who's depressed and is needing constant reassurance? Is that your job? You have to ask yourself, can I offer this person reassurance without bringing myself down? If you are bringing yourself into the dark to join that person who is depressed because you think that's a good idea and that you can rescue them from themselves, you may find that you're going to be stuck in the darkness with them. Jesus advises us, stay in your high place of love, joy, and peace, and bring them up to meet you. You do not go into the dark to rescue. You stay in the light and be the incredible beacon of love and light and joy that will call them to you. The minute you venture into the darkness, you risk the possibility that you will be lost there too. Just stay in the light, the place where both of you will be safe, and call them to you. Don't go into the dark, the place of fear, and hope that nothing will happen. Okay? What if one of the people believes themselves to be superior and engages constantly in cutting other people down? Should you stay in that relationship because you may not think very much of yourself? Well, we just talked all about self-love. Love yourself so much that you don't need the reassurance from another person because you already have it from your connection with the divine. You're being supported through your unconditionally loving relationship with the universe that is supporting you no matter what you say or do. You can receive more of that love when you are more open and more self-loving, but remember that doesn't go away just because you choose to turn away. It's still there, you've just chosen not to see it. So you open your heart to that self-love, to that unconditional love, and you become more self-loving, and you won't need to attract people who are superior that would like to cut you down. They may still be up here. Pay them no notice and walk away. You don't have to engage. You've got free will. All right, last one. Both working. One person is a spender and one is a saver. Okay, on the surface it looks like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. It must be awful to have to try to save all your money and then just get it taken away by the other person. Well, wait a minute. The saver could be a hoarder. The saver could be so afraid to spend anything that they won't part with a dime, and they are living in a situation that is not even comfortable because they're so afraid to spend any money. The spender may be living well within their income, but of the mindset, hey, I can attract money whenever I want. I live within my means and I enjoy spending money. Look at the balance. The spender could also be running up credit card debt and be crazy out of control. Now they're out of balance. They are not self-loving. Just as the saver may be placing themselves living way below their means and not even eating properly because they're afraid to spend money, the spender could be crazy overspending because they're trying to fill their self-love needs with material possessions. It's always about balance. So please don't apply any hard and fast rules to anyone. Look for the balance. Every situation can be acceptable if it's in balance. It's great to spend money if it's for your highest good. It's great to save money if it's for your highest good. Always bring it back to the source. Ask, is this for my highest good? Check in with your heart. Ask your guides. Take advantage of all of the wonderful help that's here for you now. And as always, if you want my help, go to my website, marciamartinthehearthealer.com, Marcia spelled M-A-R-C-I-A, and book yourself a consultation. Get on my mailing list. Take advantage of the free materials that are offered. It is not free to work with me, but it's free to inquire whether you would like to work with me. MarciaMartinthehearthealer.com. You are not alone. You are so very loved, and you are perfect. So until next Wednesday, I'm sending you all my love.